Welcome to Nacho Average Cinema. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're going to talk about our top 10 movies of 2024. So, our top favorite movies. And I do not know these lists. Pepper knows what both of us have. So he's gonna have all the insights. He's the expert in movies.
Yes, yes. As you can tell from my t-shirt here, I talk movies too much. And I would say we both talk movies too much, at least to the
Very
other
good.
people in our lives. For each other, we are perfect.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, so I think you ended up seeing more new movies. So in this list, it's just movies I believe that were from 2024. And I believe you saw probably more than I did. I probably only saw 20 or so, maybe
I think I had
25.
36 new movies.
Ooh.
Not
Yeah,
all in the
so
theater, some were streaming, but yeah.
yeah. I saw a lot of mine in the theater this year. I don't know what it is, but I just am able to shut my mind off a little bit more in the theater. So most of mine were in the theater. But who will be starting for us, Pepper?
It will be you starting. You may
Wow.
have the more interesting list, so maybe you should go second, but I made the slideshow with you going first. So yes, ladies first.
Sounds good. My number 10 is actually the third movie in a series. Spoilers, possibly. I don't know if I'll mention spoilers or not, or if Pepper will. So, just so you guys are aware. But yeah, this one's the third, so you can maybe guess. I don't know that there were that many third movies and series that came out this year. This is Venom 3: The Last Dance.
The Last Dance, yes.
And it was actually one that, well, the series itself, I watched all three of the movies this year. So I was a little excited for this one. I think I mostly watched them just because I was, I guess, looking for some superhero movies and I had not watched them previously. And I enjoyed them quite a bit. I liked the humor in these movies. And I felt like this one kind of stuck to that sort of humor. It had a lot of the same things in that way. I think a lot of people might say these aren't the greatest movies ever, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's a nice popcorn movie. I like the interactions between Venom and I'm terrible at character names. Pepper's probably way better at character names. Eddie. Is his name
Eddie.
Eddie?
Yes, Eddie
Yes.
Brock.
Yes. So I like their buddiness. I think it works really well.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed the first two. I have not seen this one yet. I watched a bunch at the end of the year to try to finalize my list, but this is one that I did not get around to. So glad you featured it, and looking forward to watching it in the next few months. My number 10 was a movie I was not initially that interested in because I'm not that into vampires. And I'm like, oh, this is just going to be another generic bunch of people in an area killed off one by one type of movie. And it was that. And that is Abigail. And I think you actually liked this one a little bit when you watched it. I think you went to the theater and it was on Peacock, I think, and I watched it, and wow, the set of characters in this movie was just perfect for all the interactions, all the humor was there. Like, I thought this was like a James Gunn movie, like Guardians of the Galaxy, just a perfect core set of characters to hit off of each other. And it's just a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be. It's exciting, it's scary. Um, the lore of the vampires, I'm not really into usually, but I kind of like the things that they introduced here and how it works. I don't know if that's usually how vampires work. I don't want to spoil anything, but I liked it in this one. And yeah, I think it's just all comes down to that characters. Otherwise, it is kind of a pretty generic monster hunts a group of people movie. But the characters, that's what makes it. And I would say it has horror thriller here. I would put comedy as well. I think there is a lot of humor.
Yeah, I like this one. Like I told you earlier, I think this one would probably have been my number 11, but probably just hurts it because it was earlier in the year. If this had come out in the Halloween times, would have been more recent, probably would have snuck onto my list. And yeah, I agree with all that. I think the characters were really good for what they did. So they'll probably make an Abigail too, and they'll bring a cast of characters together again, and they'll be terrible.
I'm just waiting for Abigail versus Megan. For
Ooh.
that showdown.
Maybe, possibly. Uh, but speaking of horror movies that have a second movie in them, uh, my number nine, Smile 2.
Ooh.
This one I wasn't really sure if I was going to go to or not. I just wasn't sold on it one way or another initially, and then I said, what the heck, I'll go into this one, and it was kind of funny. I I think this one was when I was in the theater and there were a bunch of other people, and it was the first time I'd kind of experienced people being like the people they show on previews of horror films where they're all acting really crazily and screaming and stuff. There was like a whole row of those people in this one. I don't know. It's like they'd never seen horror film before with some jump scares and stuff. And yeah, for some reason, this one, I don't know what it was about it. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but the for some reason, I think that night I had trouble sleeping for some reason. I don't know if it was I was just uncomfortable with the smiles or what it was. There were just some scenes in there that, uh, yeah, just had me feeling uncomfortable after the fact. So I'm like, well, if it stuck with me that much, it probably deserves to be on this list. Even if it was maybe not necessarily a positive sticking with me, but
Just walked
I
home
thought it was
and
pretty good.
Michaela, your wife, was greeted you with a smile as you walked back into the house, and you're like, ah! Ran away.
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
A good pick. My number nine is kind of replacing a childhood favorite of mine. One of my favorite films
Smile too.
growing up. Yes. One of my favorite films growing up was Behind Enemy Lines with Owen Wilson and Gene Hackman. And Owen Wilson gets stuck behind enemy lines, and Gene Hackman's back at headquarters or whatever. He's like, I'm gonna get you home. And that's pretty much the movie. And rewatched that one recently, and it wasn't as good as I remembered growing up, as with a lot of movies I'm guessing that we watched growing up. But just watched this year A Land of Bad, and this is pretty much the exact same premise. You got the main character, a Hemsworth brother here, and they're in a mission. Things go wrong. He's stuck. Russell Crowe here is a great man in the chair kind of thing, running some drones and keeping an eye on him and trying to get him home. And this one is much more modern than Behind Enemy Lines, so it's got a lot of amazing action sequences, and it's it's I don't know, one of my favorite action films of the year. I don't know what it is about this one. It just felt really gritty, really real, and kind of with war films, sometimes people die, and that can kind of leave you with a bad feeling, but it's also real feeling because people do die. Good guys die, and so if that bothers you in a film, if some of these characters will not make it out and you're not okay with that, then you might not want to watch it, but I thought this was a really, really great one.
Nice. Yeah, I might have to watch this one. This is the one I have not watched this year. But one I have watched this year, and speaking of my wife, Michaela, I think this was maybe a letdown for this year. I was really hoping this one would live up to what I really enjoyed for the previous one. This is a kind of a second one as well. Granted, it's not actually named number two, but Michaela had a heck of a time with this one and was laughing more than I think. It's not a comedy film by any means, but it's Godzilla X Kong, New Empire. Uh, I think she just loved Kong's non-verbal signs and stuff that he did, non-verbal communication. For some reason, it just tickled her funny bone or something. But she was having a blast, so obviously it helped me still have a blast, even though there were some things in the film that I was like, I don't know. I just kind of I don't know. It was probably more that Godzilla versus Kong kind of caught me off guard. I didn't realize I would like that one as much, and I watched that one like years after it came out, or a year or two after it came out, and really loved it. So I think my expectations were maybe just a little too high, but yeah, overall, I think there's still some good stuff in it. It just there's a few pieces that are a little bit more questionable on like timing and stuff. Like, I don't really. It seems very what's the word? Um,
What, convenient?
Convenient. Yes, Pepper. You knew what word I was thinking of. Convenient things happening. And then there's the whole spoiler, there's the whole bad guy making all of his minions push rocks. And he's apparently been making him push rocks for gosh knows how long. I don't even know. I don't want to know how long I've just been pushing rocks back and forth, but
Yes, The Rock moving is has been in a many film this year. We noticed.
yeah,
But
otherwise it is still good. Just a little bit of a letdown compared to
yeah,
the original, so to say.
yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. This one did not make my list, and that's a big disappointment. I was looking forward to this. This is high on my anticipated movies, but I think it was the same
Yep.
thing. That first one just blew me away. All the previous ones, Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Kong, Skull Island, all disappointed me so much that I didn't care when Godzilla vs. Kong came out, which is shocking because that's made for me. And I just caught it on TV some random day and it blew me away. Then I had expectations again, and now I'm disappointed again. So maybe I got to
I know.
rewatch it someday and it'll maybe make
Yeah,
up,
I
hopefully.
kind of wish I hadn't watched any trailers on this one because I feel like they may have spoiled like way too much stuff.
I'm like, I
Like
don't want to
almost
know. He's
everything.
got a gauntlet. Look at that right there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, if you want any like more in-depth reviews or ranking of any of these franchises, let us know, and we will maybe make a video on that. We're kind of new to these movies, videos,
Kind
so
of
let
new.
us know what you
Brand
want to
new.
see. Brand
Yeah.
new. I like the split there. The 54% tomato meter and the audience meter 90%. That might be the highest audience we have here today. My number eight was a film that shocked me. I didn't think I was going to like it, and I'll just get into it. That is Civil War. Saw the first, well, I first heard of it. I'm like, how are they going to capture such a grand idea into a movie? I'm like, that feels like a mini series or a TV series, something like that. Saw the trailer for it. I'm like, okay, there's some really amazing shots of action in DC with helicopters and the White House and tanks. I'm like, okay, this looks amazing. And then you see some other parts of the trailer where it's just some guy standing by a truck on a dirt road, terrorizing some people. And I'm like, I'm thinking that first part's going to be about 5% of the movie, and the other part is going to be 95% of the movie. And that is pretty much what it was. But I think that the 95% really works. I really enjoyed the angle that they took, having it be kind of reporters or kind of photographers, I guess, capturing the war instead of participating in it. I thought that traveling across and seeing all these different people and how they are reacting with and dealing with the war instead of just being all out war. I thought it was a really cool way to capture it and get into these characters and their mindsets and how they react to certain situations. And I think it really builds to an amazing kind of climax in the end. Those last like 20 minutes are exactly what I wanted from the movie. And if it was all that, like I was hoping originally, then it probably wouldn't have been nearly as special. And you probably wouldn't have cared about the characters as much. Uh, but yeah, I just thought this one's a really special, kind of unique perspective and kind of the way they film it with the photography and having some snapshots in here in the film as well. The way it's presented is pretty cool as well. And I think the director, whoever did it, Alex Garland, I think was the name. He's got another one. He's got Warfare coming out next year, which I think, okay, maybe that's just all out war and intense stuff, like the final 20 minutes here. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, this was one of them that kind of disappointed me because I was hoping it'd be the other way around, 95%, 5%, but I did still enjoy it because of that. Like you said, it is interesting seeing it from their perspective, and I think it really works in the movie. I just, although I don't know, it's hard to say whether or not I would have gone to the movie if they had shown it as being, I don't know, about that in the trailers and stuff.
Yeah, I think
I
that
guess
would have.
I didn't personally get that. Maybe some people going in. knew that that's the whole focus of it. I did not think that that was going to be the main focus of it. So uh, maybe would have thought of it differently had I gone in thinking, oh, we're going to see it from that perspective. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that possibly hurting it, and I get why they try to market it that way or show all the good stuff. Make
Hmm. But my number seven was marketed. It's been marketed for a bit. I think it. I think the first thing was just that I remember anyway was just a symbol being clawed, showing that maybe two people were going to get together in a film, and that's Deadpool versus Wolverine. I think that was the first thing that it was, wasn't it?
I
Like the
think so,
Deadpool
just that
symbol and
symbol or I remember Ryan Reynolds
something.
did some video and Hugh Jackman was walking behind him. He's like, "You want to come back?" He's like, "Sure." I forget if it's that or the symbol or both of them at the
That's
same
true. Maybe it
time.
was that.
I forget what it was.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
can't
this one
remember.
has been anticipated for a while.
Yeah, that one has been on the list for a bit. I didn't. I figured it would kind of. I have not watched any of like the Hugh Jackman Wolverine stuff at all. I hear that Logan is supposed to be really good. I don't really know what other people say about the other ones or the other films that he's in or X-Men or whatever. Uh, I don't know that I've ever heard like a bunch of people saying you got to go see these ones. So I guess I don't know if that speaks for it. Pepper, I think you watched him, so maybe you have more info on that. But yeah, I thought I will say. Uh, I don't know. Maybe this one shouldn't be this high, but I just feel like all I think about when I think about this movie is the intro scene, and that is unfortunately the best part of the whole thing. I feel like I could have watched that and I would have been happy with just that intro scene and kind of just the first bit of it because I didn't personally end up liking the villain that much. And, I just didn't think it worked, although I don't think in general Marvel's done the greatest job with villains. There aren't that many that I would say were top level villains to begin with. So, but it is interesting. It's got some cameos and stuff. It's probably going to encourage more of that in the future films. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it was still enjoyable. And I would like if there were some of these cameos that led to maybe other films with those people specifically in them. But we'll see if that happens or not.
Yeah, yeah. I hear some of your complaints, but we might hear a little more from me about this one later. Uh, but yeah, it's good pick. Good pick. My number seven is regarded as a terrible, terrible pick. At least its original version. And that is Rebel Moon Part 2. That's right, I'm putting it on a top 10 list. People put this on every worst 10 of the year that I've seen. Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. But this is the director's cut, and here's the split of the regular version and the director's cut and their reception. Less votes for the director's cut, of course. So not enough people to average it out, and people who hated it probably didn't even watch the new version, so it's probably a reason it's going to be higher. But um, yeah, are the characters great? Nah, not that great. Is the story that fantastic? No, it's not that fantastic. But what did I want from this one? I just wanted a bunch of cool action, and I think like the last hour, 20 minutes of it is just one big action sequence, and all of the characters maybe I don't care about as characters. I love them as badasses, um, beating up them aliens, beating up them opponents. I guess I don't even remember what they were that they were fighting, but there was a lot of slow motion action and shooting and slicing. And that day, it just really clicked for me. I had a blast with this one. And it kind of recaps every character. They kind of sit around. It's such a basic way to do like oh, here's my story. They literally just sat around like a campfire and shared each one of their stories that we already learned in the first one. So I'm like, well, you don't even have to watch the first one, just watch this one. And they had like about 40 minutes of slow motion grain harvesting. So if that's what you want, this is the movie for you.
Wow. I guess it's the original then even needed, or would you
Um,
just stick with the director's cut?
I would stick with the director's cut because that's all I've seen. I have not seen the originals. I think you watched the original of the first one of the first half. I don't know what you seem to not mind it too bad as much as
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
fine.
people hated it. So I would probably always stick with the director's cut, but they are a bit longer. So if you just kind of want the story, it's probably better just to go with the shorter one if you're short on time.
Well, wasn't it considered Zack Snyder's like vision of Star Wars or something,
I think so. I think he was kind of a I don't know,
or something,
tackling
or some
different,
idea he's
yeah,
had
a
for a
bit of
while?
Star Wars and kind of tackling all these different cliches and whatever. And it's kind of weird to be like releasing it and already saying, there, this isn't my version I want. This is all the cliches that I actually are tackling and taking down with my vision. And I'm like, okay, you're already kind of bashing your film that you're putting out, saying this one's going to be better. This isn't my vision. I'm like, okay, this is the 100th time you've done this. Get it straight.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it was fun. Hey, and it was, oh my goodness, released April 19th. It's gotta be a great
that's true.
movie then.
That's true. Uh, but yeah, my number six, I think, is just, and it looks like my next few are kind of all just maybe action style films, and a lot of them are like older feeling action. I don't know, just something nostalgic about them. I don't know if it actually is or not, but there's just something about it that feels that way. And this first one here is Roadhouse,
Oh,
the new Roadhouse, with
yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Look at that guy there. He's gonna take care of business, you can tell. But yeah, this one, I wasn't sure what I was gonna think about it. I think I had watched the original at some point, and it was fine. It was good enough movie, just for what it is, just being an action movie. And yeah, this one, I I don't know. There's something about Jake Gyllenhaal that I just really like as kind of that, I don't know, heel almost character, even though he's just got that look to him that he could just be a bad evil guy or he could be good. You don't really know. Um, and in this one, he's yeah, what a boxer or some ex fighter, and he's yeah gonna go help this roadhouse, and then the community kind of as well. And there's just the bad guys, and the bad guys call in probably my favorite character in the whole movie, Conor McGregor. I don't know what it is about him. It just really works in this one, just because it's definitely some nonsense, but I don't know. It's been a while. Maybe you have you watched the original Roadhouse?
I don't think I've seen the original one.
No. Yeah. It's just kind of a little over the top in some places, over the top action and stuff, and I think it really works. I don't know. You watched this one, I think, recently. Did you find that in there or not? Did you like that kind of
I
action?
like the fun. Any movie with Conor McGregor in it, you know what you're getting, and if you still want to watch it, you're gonna enjoy it. That's my take with this one, and I had fun. I had fun with the action and the kind of over the top characters. I'm still not sure about Jake Gyllenhaal when he's like appearing as just a normal good guy. I mean, he does start to get some darker stuff in his character as the movie goes along. But initially, I'm like, it just feels off. I'm used to him like in Nightcrawler or things like that, where he's kind of crazy. But this is
Hmm.
one of his most sane characters, I would say.
That's true. And I'm surprised the popcorn meter is only 52%. I feel like this deserves at least 60.
Yeah, I would not have said that the critics would like it more than the audience, but I
No,
guess the
I
audience
wouldn't either.
probably loves the original and maybe
That
just
could be.
compares it to that one and hurts it, I guess. Okay, my number six was, I think, my most recent watched movie from 2024, because I was trying to get them in at the end of the year, and this is one I was really, really anticipating. And that is Heretic. And I had heard some really good things about this one, and I was so excited, but I've heard a lot of really good things about a lot of horror movies in recent years, and sometimes they disappoint. Looking at you, Barbarian and Longlegs. Did not like those. But this one did deliver. It gave me everything I wanted, that psychological thriller, bit of horror in there, and I've only seen Hugh Grant in a couple things, but I'm like, I've heard he's really good in things, and I was excited to see what he had to offer here. And my goodness, he has to be my favorite male performance of the year, I would say. Just immediately, you know something's going on. I mean, you can look at this poster and watch the trailers, and you're like, something's going on with this guy. This guy's gonna turn out to be not so good, but my gosh, the minute he starts talking, I'm like, okay, go into the house. Go into the house. This guy is so warm and welcoming. I just want to hear him talk for, if the whole 100, not 150 minutes, 1 hour, 51 minutes, if that was just all him talking, this would still be right here. Amazing. And it's got some good horror and good scares and good
Hmm.
twists and good things to think about as well. It's one of the smartest, I would say, horror movies I've watched in the last few years.
Hmm. Yeah, I was fine with it. His performance was really good, and I think that one of them. I don't know the names. Pepper knows all the names of the actors and actresses. I think one of them was really good too. And yeah, it was good performance. I guess I didn't love what the story ended up getting to personally,
Yeah.
but I could see
I think
liking this one.
most horror movies with like a mystery to it, like what's going on here, usually do kind of disappoint because it's just so much more fun to try to think what's going on and trying to figure it out that when you do, it's just like, well, that the fun's over. And a lot
That's
of
true.
times there'll be really stupid outcomes. I don't think this one was too stupid. It's not the worst that I've seen. But again, that first half is that's the best part for sure.
Yeah, I would agree.
Boy, we're getting into the good
My
ones, the top half now.
Yes, my number five to me feels a lot like probably what Roadhouse was, only probably more action, a little more action in it. And yeah, it Beekeeper. This was one that I watched early on last year, and yeah, it's just one of those action films. It's nothing. I don't know that's anything amazingly special or anything, but uh, I just really liked the action in this one. The kills were a lot of fun, I thought. There's a few interesting kills in it. I think it worked well. I like the story of uh, so I it's kind of introduced right away that
Yeah.
so there's like these people scamming out the elderly lady that he's kind of in contact with out of a lot of money and some money that she has for like some charity. So she ends up taking her own life, and then he has to avenge her essentially, or he wants to avenge her. He doesn't have to, but he wants to. And yeah, they got on the wrong side of that one.
Yes, for sure. I feel like they knew they saw John Wick and how that goes, and to get that cheap, easy heat for these villains, just have them just be the worst. Who do people hate? They hate scammers. They're like, ah, that's just so evil. Why don't you go face to face with these people that you're scamming? See how that turns out, and that's what this movie does. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of fun and did not make my list, but I can see this one's Statham's just a great friggin' character actor. This character, he's probably played the same character about 90 times now, but it's always enjoyable.
You're telling me this wasn't Shaw or any of his other characters?
Secret spinoff. Yeah, that's a good one. My number five. Speaking of spinoff, this is a spinoff to, I would say, one of the best, maybe the best Alien franchise possibly ever, best monster franchise, and that is Quiet Place. And the spinoff is Quiet Place Day One ish. This one I was really excited about. I love the first two. I think Krasinski is the next Spielberg. Actually, Spielberg is the previous Krasinski. Those two movies were directed
Oh,
so perfectly. This one wasn't Krasinski, and I was a little worried. I'm like, is it going to lose it? Is it just a cash grab? And I will say they don't feel as smart with their sequences. You don't have all the little details like the nail in that first one. This one's a lot more straightforward and kind of it's action, but it's still effective. You know, you got to be quiet, otherwise the monsters are going to get you. That's still very effective. And this one's really about those two characters there and kind of finding how they can serve each other and help each other survive and live. And it's probably the best feeling Quiet Place.
Mhm.
Where the first one's kind of about loss and grief and sadness and just surviving. This one actually has the characters living a bit and having a lot of happy moments, surprisingly, for their situations, especially one of them. And I think it provides probably the most heartwarming scene having to do with that pizza in that scene there that I was just like, oh my goodness, hitting me right in the heart, in the warming it up. And still a lot of great action in there. Some of my favorite characters. I'm not sure which one I prefer here, although I do know it's the cat. I prefer the cat. That is the
Wow.
standout.
Yeah, this one was pretty good. I think just the problem with this is sometimes I feel like there's inconsistencies with noises and what draws the
That's
creatures and
true.
stuff, but it is a very, very good new monster out of the last I don't know how many years. So that one does work, I think. It's very interesting, but and yeah, I liked the characters in this one a lot. I probably actually do prefer it to the originals. For sure, number two. I thought number two for me was just kind of rehashing the first one, but yeah, this one felt completely different. Luckily, it wasn't just redoing the first two. Otherwise, I think that would have been
Yeah,
not so great.
yeah, I agree.
My number four, I think was inspired by a TV show that I never had watched. I've never watched it before. I think it is anyway. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Pepper. You probably know what I'm talking about. And this one was an action one. It was probably uh, for most of these, probably the only one I was aware of. Maybe earlier on in the year, it seemed like I think I had seen trailers of it from the previous year, and I was like, should be at least a popcorn flick, and that is Fall Guy.
Oh, yes, I believe there was a TV show.
And yeah, this one is another kind of action flick, and I don't. Maybe it's a spoiler. I don't know, or maybe I'm just. I don't know if I'm just dumb. Uh, but I did not realize the Fall Guy kind of had two different meanings in a way until I was watching. I'm like, wow, I'm so dumb. That's so obvious that that's what it actually means. But um, yeah, I thought this one was a lot of fun as well. I'm not necessarily like the biggest Ryan Gosling fan, but I think it just really, really worked. And it's from the director of Bullet Train, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So it was another hit for me. So I don't even know what director that is, but I will have to watch out for any more films that they're involved in, I think.
Yes, I believe that is David Leitch. And I think he's got one coming up next year. I forget what it was. Maybe something with vampires. So I was like, I don't know about that.
Oh, he'll do some great vampires,
Yes.
but yeah, this one is a great action film. You can see they're shooting an action movie actually inside of it and kind of talking about the stunt people. So it's kind of a little bit of a unique
Yeah.
film and take as well. It's kind of the year of going in and I don't know, giving credit to these different professions that may not always be looked at, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. True. This is right up there for a movie that wasn't part of a franchise other than that TV show. This is my most anticipated movie of the year. And I don't know, this is one I had on my list to rewatch because I'm like, I really want to see if that would make my 10. I did not rewatch it yet. Um, I don't know, just something about it didn't quite click, or maybe just the way that it's presented. Because I thought, okay, Ryan Gosling, you're going to be on this movie, go off on an adventure for the rest of the movie. But he kind of stays on the movie and the adventure at the same time. So I'm like, you got the romance and then you got the adventure, romance, adventure. And it was just a weird thing, and I think that's what kind of threw me off because I'm like, wait, what are we doing here? It's just the pacing felt weird to me, but now that I know
That's
it,
probably
I
true.
think I would enjoy it a bit more. Still great, and Ryan Gosling is moving up surprisingly on my kind of actors list because I'm like, I really like his style. My number four was very similar to Heretic in that I heard something good about it and I got very, very excited about it. And I said, do not look at anything, do not watch these trailers, just go in blind and watch Strange Darling. And I'm glad I did. I don't know what the trailers got in them, but I'm glad that I was able to just go in blind to this one and try to figure it out. And it's a bit of a mystery for sure. It starts off, it drops you right into the action, and it just tells the story in such a unique way. It's kind of in chapters, out of order. So you're constantly kind of going back and reinterpreting things in a new way as you're finding out more information. And it's someone who likes to be sneaky and try to figure things out. I'm like, okay, it looks this way, but that means it's not going to be this way. It's actually going to be the opposite. And I go and I'm like, okay, I think I'm right. And then it drops something. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. I have to be wrong about this. So it must be this. And then it drops another thing. I'm like, okay, maybe it's neither of those things. I don't know what's going on here. And it's just really cool. It just had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. And the the visuals of this one, I think it's makes a deal. It says shot entirely on whatever 35 millimeter film. So it's kind of have a grainy noir look to it that I thought was really cool and fitting to it. The cinematography is very cool, and I think the audio, the music, is very intense in this one. The score, like sometimes the character walks into the shot and it's just like bah. It's just loud, and I had my headphones on, and it's just like extremely intense, over the top. A big swing, but a big hit, I would say.
Hmm. I might have to watch this one then. I do like mystery ones. So yeah, I guess I did not know you watched this one, and I did not know anything about it.
You did not know anything. That's exact. You're the perfect person to watch it.
Oof. Well, I hope if I watch it, I like it as much as you did. But yeah, my number three is actually the only movie I watched overseas this year. I ended up going to the theater when we went to Scotland, and it was kind of strange because it's a very American feeling film, and there's a character who is like British, so he'd be from that area. So it's interesting watching this in a theater full of those people being Americans in there and wondering, is this how they imagine all Americans are as the main man drives into the scene, blaring loud? This one's Twisters.
Yeah. And then,
Uh,
were you wearing a cowboy hat to prove their point?
I was not wearing a cowboy hat, but they're probably that's I was probably blending in. They probably didn't realize I was an American. But yeah, this one was just a lot of fun. I didn't know if this would. I feel like we watched Twister. Maybe I'm just misremember. I feel like we watched that one a lot back in when we were growing up, but maybe it was just a couple times, and it seemed like a lot. I just remember the scene, and probably everyone would go to the scene where the cow's flying in the air and then goes back the other way. Uh, but yeah, I thought that was a good movie, and I was like, hey, I wonder if this can kind of live up to it without kind of feeling like, oh, it's just playing the same notes, doing the same thing. And I thought it felt fresh. It felt like its own film, and I thought it worked really well. And yeah, this is another one that, even though it is newer, it still maybe because I'm looking back at the old one, it felt like an older movie as
Yeah.
well. Kind of like a lot of mine have seemed like they were. Fall Guy maybe seemed a little less old, but I think the other ones that I've recently named have felt that way. And I thought this one was probably the best of those ones that felt
Um,
that way to me.
yeah, I watched this one thanks to your recommendation. I didn't know what this is going to be. I'm like, is this going to just be a cash grab? Nothing good, but it was. It was really solid, this one. And it's a good old summer blockbuster, and I think they just got the tone perfect in this one. It's humorous, it's good in that way, but then at the same time, it feels intense and serious when stuff's going down.
Yeah,
So,
and probably my favorite soundtrack of the
oh,
year.
yeah. Can't go wrong with Jelly Roll. Okay, my number three is an animated film, and not the one that I was very much anticipating this year, but a different one that I think it got over a
Despicable
billion
Me
dollars.
4.
What was that?
Despicable
Despicable Me?
Me.
Yes, Despicable Me 4. And Kung Fu Panda 4. And whatever, Minions 73. Now, this is Inside Out 2. I remember liking the first one quite a bit, even though it made me very, very sad with one of the scenes. And I am happy to report there's not a scene in this one as heartbreaking as the first one, but this one does still pack a lot of emotion, of course, because it's full of emotions as the characters, and I think they're still charming as ever. And they introduce a few more, anxiety being the big new addition here, kind of trying to take over. I think it's Riley is the character's name, take over her life as she's growing up in school and trying to fit in and all that kind of stuff. And the usual issues that movies cover uh, in that age of life. But I think this one is just like the first one, a unique perspective, being inside the character's head and showing how these emotions are kind of controlling the character. And I think it's always intriguing and always fun to see it. A lot of humor in here with the puns of the different things. I think the first one had like the train of thought, being an actual train inside the mind. I mean, okay, but it's funny. And there's a few more in this one. One in particular I liked quite a bit. I don't know if it makes sense that it would be a thing that would appear. I feel like it's more of a result of the brain and not a piece of it. But it was funny enough. I'll let it slide. And the effect it had on the characters was one of my favorite moments. So, yeah, just as good. I like it more than the first one. Could be recency bias, but I think I do. I think I do solidly like this one more. So go check it out if you like that first one.
Well, this one's got a 95, so it beats out Zilla and Kong. And I did not see this one, but uh, yeah, I was not originally excited to watch this one, but I will be honest, I wasn't that excited to watch the first one, and I ended up really liking the first one. So I'll probably eventually watch this one and hopefully enjoy it just as much.
Yeah.
But my number two is probably one of the other big ones outside of Godzilla versus Kong and Deadpool versus Wolverine, kind of the big blockbuster style hits. I think this was one in a series that I was also very excited about, and it ended up being my favorite one of those this year. I just really liked the world, even though I guess it's technically our world, the kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Uh, I don't know. I liked the. I'm not one that notices like cinematography, and you'll probably say, "Oh, this looked all really fake and stuff," and I'm like, to me, it looked really great. It was probably my favorite one in that way of all the movies that I watched, and I just like the idea of uh, this taking place many years after kind of the last movie, and it now they're like kind of clans of these monkeys doing living kind of differently. It's just kind of an interesting thought that they could kind of interact with each other, and um, I just like them kind of having their own thing. These ones having like these falconry, these falcons, eagles, whatever they were, and training them up to kind of help them survive and stuff. Just kind of an interesting uh, take on it. And then you kind of meet these other ones that are maybe have different thoughts on their mind of trying to go and find maybe the old human technologies to utilize them in probably ways to maybe conquer more territory would be my guess. And then kind of the ending. I don't know that I've watched all the like the old Planet of the Apes movies, but I don't know. Maybe you know. Do any of them come, or do any of them get to the point where the humans are like trying to make it back? The whatever smart humans or whatever you want to call them.
Trying to take back. I think there are some factions of humans in the ape world in the old ones. I think there's a couple of them.
Because I think at the end it kind of teased something like that, and I could be very excited for that,
Yeah.
especially if maybe we introduce some more groups of the monkeys as
Oh,
well.
yeah. First off, monkeys, they're apes. Come
Apes,
on, man. You're gonna
apes,
get
monkeys,
attacked. I'm trying to save you here. The comments are gonna be like, they are not monkeys.
apes.
Same thing. But yeah, I agree. Visually, I was like stunned in the first few minutes that I watched this in the trailer. I was like, wow, this looks amazing. And I'm like, it's probably longer since the previous one than I remember. But I was like, this is just a few years, and they made like completely realistic looking dozens of characters, humans turned into apes. And I'm like, it looks flawless. We know what chimps look like. So, I mean, it's harder to fool us to make it look like a walking chimp on a horse with a gun talking. I'm like, that should look goofy as heck, but it looks amazing. So, I would say visual effects of the year. All this whole franchise in the reboot franchise. The originals, maybe not, but reboots look amazing.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, it felt like it was doing this world building, even though it's
Yeah,
technically our world. It felt like a fun, unique world, even though
yeah,
uh, it's not really supposed to be any different than the current world. I feel like, or at least
yeah,
years later, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Okay, my number two, the runner-up, and I'm like, this one's kind of just. It was always solidly. This was always going to make my list ever since I first saw it, and I'm like, this is the movie that I want to talk about and recommend the most. Um, this year, just because of one standout performance that I'd say is performance of the year. That belongs to Naomi Scott in Smile 2. This one, watched the first Smile, watched the second Smile pretty much back to back. I really liked the first Smile. I thought the cinematography was great, the performance was great. And I watched Smile 2, and I'm like, my God, it's 10 times better on each of those. The visuals in this one, I think it helps a lot. She's like a pop star or whatever. You get a lot of color and flashing lights and shiny scenery. I think that cinematography looks amazing. A lot of twisty shots, upside down shots, just really giving you an eerie feeling. And I think this franchise does a fantastic job of not always relying on jump scares. It can be terrifying when it's just focusing, like you said, on a smile. Just kind of pretty much a still image. Someone standing still smiling is just as scary as a jump scare right in your face. It has jump scares, and maybe a few too many. That's probably my
I think it was
only
too many.
negative. Only negative about it. There's some that like fool me. Like we know all the setups and things like that, but there's some in this that come absolutely out of nowhere. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a cheat and I hate it, or if I respect it because you got me. Not sure, but
Maybe if they didn't also have some of them that you knew were kind of coming.
yeah, that's
So I
true.
feel like they already had a decent amount of those, and then to do it then additional times,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
felt like it was a bit too much.
Yeah, I think there were a few too many. There was
But
one kind of as it got near the end, I'm like, okay, that's a few too many jump scares. You're smarter than this. Smile too. Uh,
right, yeah, it was already creepy enough. They didn't need those. And I was just
yeah,
like, I'm just trying to enjoy it, but I don't want to get jump scared again
yeah,
because
that's
I
true.
know they're gonna do it. I can tell.
Uh,
Setting it up.
it ain't fair. But yeah, the main thing being her performance in this, I was like, wow. I mean, that's it's a horror movie sequel. I don't expect to go into a horror movie sequel and be like, wow, that's performance of the year. But the way she does with this, all the different parts to her character, being a kind of pop star, interacting with fans, interacting with TV show hosts, interacting with her family, more on a personal side, her struggles in the past and trying to be better. And then you also have to be in a horror movie. You have to be scared. You have to express with the face. You have to scream. And one of the screams in particular, in the third act, I think it was in a flashback. And it wasn't even like gory or anything like that. And it just made me so uncomfortable because it's so well done. I'm like, my God, just stop screaming. Cut away from this scene. I can't handle it anymore. I like that's when they get you feeling that and caring for a character as much as you do about this one for just some, like I said, horror movie sequel. You just go, a lot of times you want the characters to die because they're just nothing. But that is not the case with this one. And she sings and dances. And a few of the songs have been on repeat in the playlist ever since this movie. So it's the
Wow.
one I'm most excited to talk about because my number one is kind of an obvious pick. This one was not an obvious pick going into the year. Go check it out if you like horror whatsoever.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I think was that our first crossover?
I think that is our first crossover. Wow.
And your next, my last one will not be a crossover. Your next one, I think, will be our second crossover. But it's kind of shocking that this would be one of the crossovers.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually would have thought Kingdom would have made your list.
Yeah, that
I'm a
just
little
missed it.
surprised.
I think the human characters being as mysterious as they are, was hard to invest in for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Just and kind of in the back half, it focuses on that. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. I think when they focus on it in the future, it might make it better and raise it up. But I just remember liking the first half better than the second in that one.
Yeah, that's probably true. Uh, but yeah, my number one of the year. Uh, this was one I think when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, oh, that could be cute. That could be fun, a fun movie. I definitely did not think that it could be my number one. Well, obviously it'd have a chance to be my number one, but I didn't expect it to be going into it. And this is, I think, it's my only animated one, and that is The Wild Robot. And probably like Inside Out 2 for you.
Look at
Uh,
those numbers. My goodness, 97%, 98%.
Yeah, this is the one that I think you should have watched because I think it would have made your list based on what you're saying for
Yeah,
uh
I'm about 90% sure this would make my list. This is the biggest one that I did not watch.
mhm. Yeah, but it's I don't know. When I was looking back at the 2024 movies list. For some reason they didn't I think this should have been when I looked at the amount of money it made, but it wasn't listed in the top 10 earners. And I'm like, well, that can't possibly be right, and it should be in the top. But maybe it was just maybe it wasn't in there accidentally or something. But yeah, this one is a great movie about a robot raising a little gooseling duck, what bird, a little baby bird, uh, because of unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's just kind of a, I don't know, like I am not a parent, but it's like a movie about raising a youngin as they are kind of growing up and then kind of being able to let them go by the end of it. And it was definitely a tear-jerking kind of film, I think. And yeah, then you just get these other characters that are there as well. And yeah, they're all really, really fun characters. They all work together because they're kind of all different animal types and they maybe fit kind of the uh, archetype of that animal, it
Oh,
seems like. And then they kind of, maybe by the end, sort of come together, maybe are willing to come together. But yeah, this one was a really fun film. I think this is one that I would probably purchase on DVD.
wow. Wow, nice. Yeah, when I first saw like really early, like first ever like little sneak peek 5 second teaser on YouTube of this, I had to screenshot it immediately because I was immediately jumped into my most anticipated, and I can't believe I still haven't seen it. I think this would be in my top five. Could even be my number one. I don't know, but I was expecting to like it more than Inside Out 2, and that's my number three, so I'm really looking forward to this one. But this way we got to feature more movies in our list by it
That's
not
true.
crossing over. So
That's
maybe
true.
once
I'm
I watch it,
surprised.
we'll have to do a review of it. If you are interested in that, comment below. Just say
Yes.
robot, and we will know.
Same robot below. Uh, yeah.
My number one is a crossover with you, and yeah, it's Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't care if you don't like the villain. I like the villain. I think she did a good job. I don't think this is a movie that's focused on the villain. That's the issue. I think she could really shine if she was in like a Doctor Strange movie or something like that. But here, it's all about that man and that man, Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. It's about those two and their love story, their friendship, real life and in the movie. I did binge all the X-Men universe, and it's kind of all blended together, so I can't really recommend individual ones, but there were a few of them that I really liked and kind of were near my top films of at all that I watched in the year, but this one I think might be probably my favorite Deadpool film. But I like Deadpool 2 more than Deadpool 1. Most people don't agree with that, so I guess take that opinion with a grain of salt. But this one gave everything I wanted. Just that opening scene was a big sigh of relief because bringing Deadpool into the MCU, you're a little worried. Are they going to nerf him? Are they going to water him down? And that opening scene just tells you, nah, we're not doing any of that. We are letting them cook. We are letting them do whatever they want to do, make any jokes. tear into anything, even ourselves, as much as they want. And like he always does, he can tear into these things in horrible, disgusting ways and make these jokes that cross every line. But then it always has heart in it, and it always somehow even respects the things it's making fun of. Especially with a lot of the cameos, there's a lot of jokes made of them, but it doesn't disrespect them. And I don't know how they do that in every Deadpool movie, it seems. It's magic. It's magic. Ryan was born to play Deadpool. Anything else is just watered down Deadpool. Hugh Jackman, born to play Logan, and I think Sean Levy is his name, director. Seems like all three of them are just best friends. I watched the documentary Making of, and I'm like, wow, if you got that team and they're that passionate about doing it right, it's going to end up good.
Yeah, that, like you said, that intro, that was definitely the piece that really hooked me, but I think it also set the bar a little bit too high.
Yeah.
Uh, unfortunately, a little bit, in my opinion. But yeah, it was still very, very good, and it's what you would expect out of this. I think you get everything you would want out of it.
Yeah, yeah, you don't need, or you're not going for like just an amazing story. Like the story, it's kind of like a road trip type story, and I didn't want any spoilers, so I didn't know like the villain or anything. So I didn't really know where we were going with the story, or kind of what the objective was, or what it looked like, or who the villain even was. So I'm like, what do I invest in here? Is this just a cameo, or is this gonna matter? So it's not the clearest story-wise, maybe doesn't make the best sense, but. It's enjoyable. A lot of humor and action, and that's all I want.
Yes. But yeah, those are our top of the year. If you've made it this far, let us know in the comments below what your top 10 movies of 2024 were. And yeah, we hope to put out a video every week, once a week. I think our next one we'll be doing is our top anticipated movies of 2025. So let us know in the comments below what you think about that as well. Subscribe if you want to see those. Like the video if you give it a thumbs up if you liked it. But otherwise, we hope to see you on our future videos. And as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on that popcorn.